Good afternoon from the KUOW newsroom. This is Seattle Now. I'm Paige Browning with the roundup of today's top stories. It's Tuesday, August 5th. The next time you hear from us about the primary election, it'll be the results. That's because voters in Washington state have until this evening at 8 o'clock to return their primary election ballots. As of this afternoon, turnout in the county is just under 21%. In this election, analysts have described Seattle's city council president, city attorney, and mayor as moderate liberals, fending off more progressive challengers. City council president Sarah Nelson says for her, those political labels are too simplistic. But Nelson says there are commonalities between her campaign and those of city attorney Ann Davison and Mayor Bruce Harrell.
Because we came in at the same time and we have been working often in very close coordination on certain issues, and we're all the incumbents. In that sense, we're the people that have been trying to recover the city.
Nelson says she considers voters' top priorities to be public safety, affordability, and addressing homelessness. Opponents of Nelson, Davison, and Harrell are pledging to more aggressively challenge Trump administration policies and pursue new forms of progressive revenue. Two other stories to know at the top of the show. Washington state and Seattle are both appearing on a list of so-called sanctuary jurisdictions published this morning by the Justice Department. President Trump directed the DOJ to create the list, and it includes 34 cities, states, and counties, plus the District of Columbia. Attorney General Pam Bondi says she will bring litigation against jurisdictions that refuse to help federal officials enforce immigration laws. Seattle's part of a lawsuit aiming to stop federal cuts to sanctuary jurisdictions. And the U.S. Coast Guard now says the implosion that killed 5 people on board the Titan submersible in 2023 could have been prevented. A new report shows the Everett company that built it, OceanGate, had critically flawed safety procedures in place. Investigators say OceanGate downplayed, ignored, and even falsified key information about the vessel before it imploded on a dive to the wreckage of the Titanic. They also said the company fired senior staff who spoke out about their concerns. OceanGate suspended operations in July 2023. Advocates expect even more people to come to Washington from other states for abortions following federal policy changes. They also expect longer wait times for local patients. Eilish O'Neill has more.
Ever since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, Western Washington has seen a 30 to 40% increase in out-of-state abortion patients. Rebecca Gibron with Planned Parenthood says that number is continuing to grow.
And listen, patients are finding care as quickly as they can, wherever they can in this country.
The federal government recently passed a bill that would prevent patients from using Medicaid to pay for any services, including cancer screenings and birth control, at Planned Parenthood clinics. Planned Parenthood is fighting that in court, but if the new federal policy holds, clinics will likely close, even in states where abortion is legal. Governor Bob Ferguson has pledged to use state money so Medicaid patients can continue to receive care at Planned Parenthood clinics in Washington. Eilish O'Neill, KUOW News.
To local congressional news, in an escalation of viewpoints on Gaza, Seattle Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal is calling the crisis in Gaza genocide. She's in a small camp that includes GOP Congressmember Marjorie Taylor Greene and few others in using the term genocide for the situation. Jayapal says it's time because she says Gaza's population has been systematically starved and more than 60,000 Palestinians have been killed by Israeli fire. Since May, hundreds of Palestinians have been killed while heading to food distribution sites. As international outcry mounts, Israel's government contends Hamas is to blame and is debating wider military action this week. 2 candidates for Congress are giving sharply different accounts of a tussle at a town hall event. Police arrested several protesters at Representative Adam Smith's town hall yesterday. Former Seattle City Council member Shama Sawant is running against Smith, and she says the people arrested were with the group she co-founded, Workers Strike Back, and says they were protesting peacefully. Smith said on social media that the protesters assaulted one of his staff members. Sawant later went to the facility where the activists were reportedly being held to call for their release. You'll soon be able to take the light rail much farther south. Construction on Sound Transit's light rail extension into Federal Way should be done by the end of this month. After that, the agency plans to announce an official start date for the service. More from Northwest Public Broadcasting's Lauren Gallup.
The expansion was meant to open in 2024, but a few things delayed it. The pandemic, a concrete workers' strike in Seattle, and even problems with the soil all contributed to a later opening date. David Jackson is a spokesperson for Sound Transit.
I think people have been driving by the project for some time wondering when it's going to open because it looks done.
The connection runs from Linwood to Federal Way. Jackson says it will connect people in King County with more opportunities. That could include access to jobs in and around SeaTac Airport or more access to places like Highline College. I'm Lauren Gallup reporting.
The outdoor retail co-op, REI, says it's agreed on a new bargaining plan with unionized workers. KNKX Murrow News fellow Nate Sanford has details.
Workers at 11 REI stores have voted to unionize since 2022 over issues related to pay, staffing, and hours. One of the unionized stores is in Bellingham. The unionized workers have struggled to secure a contract. Negotiations with individual bargaining units at stores have stalled. But in a joint statement with the union, REI says a new national bargaining structure will create a path forwards towards a first contract. Unionized workers previously accused REI of withholding wages and benefits in retaliation against organized stores. The company denied the claim, but as part of the new agreement, REI says it will pay those workers the wages they didn't receive. In exchange, the union says it will drop the unfair labor practice cases it filed over the matter. Nate Sanford, reporting.
Neighborhood activists are working to restore a Chinatown International District mural that commemorates Japanese-American history. The artwork in Nihonmachi Alley was vandalized over the weekend with silver paint. King 5 reports it's the second time this year the mural's been defaced. The vandalism came just days before the 80th anniversary of the atomic bombing of Hiroshima tomorrow, a somber occasion for many Japanese people and Japanese Americans. As for another mural, some Seattleites are celebrating because city leaders have announced they will no longer try to remove the Hot Rat Summer mural. The mosaic at Cal Anderson Park depicts a saintly rat, and it's become a symbol of transgender pride and resilience. The artwork was reported as graffiti earlier this year, and city crews painted over it several times, but community members continued to clean it off. John Diaz is happy it survived.
And I feel like so many people resonate with this mural. I don't know who made it or who drew it or who painted it, but for it to be a representation of the community, and specifically like trans youth and other minorities, it's really beautiful to see that out there.
Seattle Mayor Bruce Harrell's office announced now the city's working on a plan to maintain it. Finally today, goodbye to a few more Starbucks. 5 Seattle area Starbucks that are pickup only are shutting down in the next year, but some could be converted to cafes with seating, according to the Puget Sound Business Journal. This comes as the company announced last week an emphasis on human connection over fast transactions. Next time on Seattle Now, the King County Metro 8 bus is late. A lot.
Route 8 is the #1 least reliable route in the King County Metro system. At rush hour, buses are only 30% on time. That's within 5 minutes of the schedule. And, King County Metro's goal is 80% on time. And then speeds are at 2 to 3 miles an hour on Denny Way. That's slower than walking.
A group of transit advocates say something needs to be done, so they hosted a race to raise awareness for the 8's frequent tardiness. Hear that Wednesday morning. That's all for today from the KUOW Newsroom in Seattle. Our producer is Brooklyn Jamerson Flowers, and I'm Paige Browning. Seattle Now and KUOW are members of the NPR network. See you soon.